Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roots of African Tales. So guys, I have something really special for you today. I posted this story in 3 separate parts before, but then I thought, why not give you the complete experience all in one video? I decided to combine all 3 parts together so you can enjoy the full story without any breaks. I promise it's going to keep you hooked. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's dive into this amazing journey together. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ready? Let's go. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the marble hallway as Rose collapsed on the cold street, her 2 babies crying in her arms. Just 10 feet away, a black luxury car slowed to a stop. Behind the tinted window sat the man who had once owned her heart for a single night. The man who had no idea these hungry children were his. How did a poor woman have twins of a rich man, and why did not know about them? But let's go back to where it all began. But before we start, subscribe to my channel. I will count to 3. 1, 2, and 3. 2 years earlier, Rose wiped the sweat from her forehead as she arranged the breakfast table in the grand dining room. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the expensive china, but she barely noticed the beauty around her. She had learned not to admire things that would never belong to someone like her. Little did she know that in just a few hours, her entire world would change forever. "Good morning, Mr. James," she said softly as the tall, dark-haired man entered the room. James Mitchell didn't look up from his phone. At 28, he was already worth billions, and his cold grey eyes showed it. He never smiled. He never said thank you. He simply existed in his world of money and power, treating everyone around him like they were invisible. "Coffee's cold," he said without tasting it. Rose's heart sank. She had made it fresh just 5 minutes ago. "I'll get you a new cup right away, sir." "Don't bother, I'm late for a meeting." He grabbed his coat and headed toward the door, then stopped. "And Rose?" "Next time, pay attention to what you're doing." The door slammed shut, leaving Rose alone with the untouched breakfast. She touched the coffee cup. It was still steaming hot, but she said nothing. She never did. Rose had been working for James for 2 years. She lived in a small apartment above the garage, grateful for the steady job that helped her send money home to her sick mother and younger sister in their village. She had learned to ignore James's harsh words and cold treatment. She had bigger problems to worry about. That afternoon, Rose was dusting the living room when she heard voices getting louder in James's office. "You're being impossible, James." The voice belonged to Victoria, his fiancée. She was beautiful like a magazine cover, with perfect blonde hair and expensive clothes, but her heart was as cold as James's. "I told you I'm busy for the next 3 months, James replied, his voice tight with frustration. "This hotel project in Dubai is worth $500 million. I can't just leave." "Then give me money for a world tour. I'll take Sarah with me. We can go to Paris, London, Italy, everywhere. You can stay here with your precious work." Rose tried to focus on her cleaning, but their voices carried through the house. "We were supposed to travel together," James said. Victoria laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Together? When was the last time you spent a whole day with me?" "You don't care about me, James. You only care about making more money." There was silence for a moment, then James spoke again, his voice tired. "Fine, take the trip. I'll arrange everything. First-class tickets, 5-star hotels, shopping money. Take whatever you need." "Really?" Victoria's voice brightened immediately. "Oh, James, thank you. Sarah and I will have the most amazing time." Rose shook her head sadly. She had seen this pattern before. Victoria always got what she wanted by making James feel guilty. And James always gave in, trying to buy love with money. 2 weeks later, Victoria was gone. Rose watched from the window as the car took her to the airport, expensive suitcases filling the trunk. Victoria had barely said goodbye to James, too busy talking on her phone about all the places she would visit. Rose had no idea that this departure would lead to the most devastating and life-changing night of her existence. For the next few days, James seemed even more distant than usual. He worked late into the night and barely ate the meals Rose prepared. She wanted to ask if he was okay, but she knew better. James didn't talk to Maids about personal things. It was on a Thursday evening when everything changed. Rose was washing dishes in the kitchen when she heard James's phone ringing loudly in his office. She couldn't help but notice how desperate it sounded, ring after ring, as if he was trying to reach someone who wouldn't answer. Then she heard something that made her heart break. The sound of a grown man crying. She quietly moved closer to the office door and heard James talking to himself. "Answer the phone, Victoria. Please, just answer." His voice was broken, nothing like the confident billionaire she knew. Rose wanted to walk away, to give him privacy, but something in his voice stopped her. She had never heard James sound so human. The next day, Rose learned the truth from the housekeeping supervisor, Mrs. Kate. "Poor Mr. James," Mrs. Kate whispered as they folded laundry together. "Did you hear what happened?" Rose shook her head. "That woman, Victoria, she's been seen all over Europe with another man. Someone took pictures of them kissing in Paris. She's spending Mr. James's money on another boyfriend." Rose's hands froze on the towel she was folding. That's terrible. And she's not answering his calls. She blocked his number after everything he did for her, all the money he spent. Mrs. Kate shook her head. Men like Mr. James, they have everything except someone who truly loves them. That evening, Rose was walking past the living room when she heard the crash. James was on the floor at the bottom of the marble staircase, an empty whiskey bottle beside him. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair messy. He was trying to get up, but kept falling back down. Rose rushed to his side. "Mr. James, are you hurt?" He looked up at her with unfocused eyes. "Rose, is that you?" "Yes, sir, let me help you." She put his arm around her shoulders and slowly helped him stand. He was heavier than she expected, and she could smell the alcohol on his breath. "She's gone," he whispered as they climbed the stairs slowly. "Victoria, she's gone. With him. With someone else." Rose's heart ached for him. Despite his cold treatment, she could see the pain in his eyes. "Let's get you to bed, Mr. James." She had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever. His bedroom was huge and elegant, with a bed bigger than Rose's entire apartment. She helped him sit down and brought him a glass of water. "Don't go," he said suddenly, grabbing her hand. "Please, I can't be alone right now." Rose hesitated. She had never seen James like this, vulnerable, broken, human. She sat down in the chair beside his bed. "I loved her," James said, staring at the ceiling. "I gave her everything, money, jewelry, trips. I thought that was how you showed love. But it wasn't enough." "Maybe she wasn't the right person for you," Rose said softly. James turned to look at her. In the dim light, his grey eyes seemed different, warmer somehow. "Do you think anyone could really love someone like me? Someone who only knows how to work and make money? Everyone deserves love, Mr. James. Real love, not the kind you have to buy." They talked for hours. James told her about his lonely childhood, about parents who were never home, about building his business to prove he was worth something. Rose listened, offering quiet words of comfort. As the night grew late, James moved from the chair to sit beside her on the edge of the bed. "You're so different from her," he said. "You're kind, you really listen. Mr. James, maybe you should get some sleep." "James," he interrupted, "just call me James." Rose looked into his eyes and saw something she had never seen before. Not the cold billionaire, but a lonely man who just wanted to be loved. When he leaned closer, she didn't pull away. When he kissed her, she kissed him back. What happened next was gentle and desperate at the same time. Two lonely people finding comfort in each other, even if it was just for one night. Rose woke up as the sun was rising. James was still asleep beside her, his face peaceful for the first time since she had known him. Reality hit her like a cold wave. What had she done? But what Rose didn't know was that this night had created more than just regret. It had created two tiny lives that would turn their world upside down. She quietly gathered her clothes and slipped out of the room. In her small apartment, she sat on her bed and cried. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. She was just a maid. He was a billionaire. Last night had been a mistake, a beautiful, terrible mistake. Her phone rang. It was her sister, Maya, calling from their village. "Rose, you need to come home," Maya said, her voice shaking. "Mama is very sick, the doctors say. They say she might not have much time." Rose's world tilted. "What? But she was fine last week when I called. She didn't want to worry you." "But Rose, she's been hiding how bad it is. Please come home. She's asking for you." Rose looked around her small apartment, then toward the main house where James was probably waking up. She couldn't face him. She couldn't pretend that last night hadn't happened. And her mother needed her. "I'm coming," she said. "I'll be there by tonight." Rose packed her few belongings and left a simple note for Mrs. Rose. "Family emergency. Had to go home. Thank you for everything." She didn't say goodbye to James. She couldn't. The bus ride to her village took 8 hours. Rose stared out the window at the changing landscape, from the city's tall buildings to small towns to the rural areas where she had grown up. With each mile, her guilt grew heavier. She had abandoned her job without explanation. She had slept with her boss. And now her mother was dying. When she reached her family's small house, Maya ran out to meet her. "Rose, thank God you're here. Mama's been waiting for you." Their mother, Sarah, was lying in the small bedroom, her face pale and thin. But she smiled when she saw Rose. "My beautiful girl," she whispered. "I'm so sorry to bring you home like this." Rose held her mother's weak hand. "Don't apologize, Mama. I'm here now. Everything will be okay." But everything was not okay. For the next 2 weeks, Rose watched her mother grow weaker. They spent their savings on doctors and medicine, but nothing helped. Sarah died on a quiet Tuesday morning, holding both her daughters' hands. At the funeral, Rose learned the truth that broke her heart all over again. "Your mother borrowed money from half the village," their neighbor, Mrs. Patel, said gently. "She was so proud she didn't want you girls to know. But Rose, the debts, they're substantial." What Mrs. Patel said next would trap Rose in the village forever and force her to make the hardest decision of her life. One by one, people came to Rose with papers and records. Her mother had borrowed money for Maya's college fees, for medicine, for house repairs. The total was more than Rose had earned in 2 years of working for James. "I'll pay everyone back," Rose promised, though she had no idea how. "Just give me time." But time was something she didn't have. Maya needed to return to college, the debts needed to be paid, and Rose was stuck in the village with no job and no money. She found work wherever she could, cleaning at the local hospital, helping in shops, doing laundry for neighbors. She worked from sunrise to sunset, but the money she earned barely covered their daily expenses. It was 6 weeks after her mother's funeral when Rose realized she was pregnant. She stared at the test in the tiny bathroom of their house, her hands shaking. There was no doubt she was going to have a baby. James's baby. But Rose had no idea that she wasn't just carrying one child, she was carrying 2. And this discovery would change everything she thought she knew about her future. For a moment, she thought about going back to the city, telling James the truth, but then she imagined his reaction. He would think she had planned it, that she was trying to trap him for his money. He would think she was just like Victoria, using him for what she could get. And even if he believed her, what then? He was a billionaire, and she was a poor village girl with nothing. He could take the baby away from her. He could pay her to disappear. He could destroy her life with a phone call. No. She would handle this alone, just like everything else. Maya noticed the changes first. "Rose, you look tired all the time. Are you eating enough?" "I'm fine," Rose lied, "just working hard." But as the months passed, it became impossible to hide. When Rose finally told Maya about the pregnancy, her younger sister was shocked. "Who is the father, Rose? Why haven't you told me about him?" He's not in our lives," Rose said. "It's just going to be me and the baby." "But Rose, you need support. You need help." "I can do this, Maya. I have to." Rose worked until the day she went into labor. The local doctor, Dr. Kumar, was kind but worried. "You're having twins, Rose," he said during her checkup. 2 healthy girls, but you need to take better care of yourself. You're too thin, too weak. Twins. Rose's heart raced with joy and terror. 2 babies to love, but also 2 babies to feed, clothe, and protect. Anna and Lucy were born on a rainy night in March. They were small but perfect, with dark hair like their father's and Rose's brown eyes. Rose held them and promised they would never know hunger or loneliness like she had. But promises are easier to make than keep. With 2 babies to care for, Rose couldn't work as much. The debts piled up. Maya had to drop out of college to help take care of the twins. They sold their mother's jewelry, their father's old tools, anything of value. Rose took the babies with her to work, carrying them in a cloth sling while she cleaned floors and washed clothes. People stared and whispered, but Rose held her head high. She was doing what she had to do for her daughters. It was on a hot summer day, when the twins were 10 months old, that everything fell apart. Rose had been working for 14 hours straight, cleaning at the hospital and then helping prepare food for a wedding. She hadn't eaten since morning, and she had given most of her own food to Anna and Lucy, who were still breastfeeding. Walking home through the busy city street where she was working that day, Rose felt dizzy. The world started spinning around her. She managed to sit down on the sidewalk, holding the twins close, before everything went black. Anna and Lucy's crying woke her up, but she couldn't find the strength to stand. People walked by, some stopping to stare, but no one helped. Rose lay on the dirty street, her babies crying beside her, feeling more hopeless than ever. That's when she heard the car door slam. The voice that called her name would either save her life or destroy the carefully built wall of lies she had created to protect her daughters. "Rose? Rose, is that you?" The voice was familiar, but Rose couldn't believe it. She looked up and saw him, James Mitchell, kneeling beside her on the street. He looked older, more tired, but still handsome in his expensive suit. "James," she whispered, wondering if she was dreaming. "What happened to you? Where have you been?" His grey eyes were full of concern. "I looked everywhere for you. You just disappeared." Rose tried to sit up, clutching the twins protectively. I had to come home. Family emergency." James noticed the babies for the first time. His face went pale. "Rose, whose children are these?" Rose's heart pounded. She looked into his eyes, the same grey eyes that Anna had inherited, and made a decision that would change everything. But as she opened her mouth to speak, she had no idea that her next words would either protect her daughters forever or set in motion a chain of events that would tear her family apart. "They're mine, Toti," she said. "I got married after I left. My husband, he died in an accident. I'm raising them alone." The lie came easily, born from months of fear and desperation. She couldn't tell him the truth. Not here, not like this. Not when she was lying weak and hungry on a street with his children crying beside her. James's expression softened with sympathy. "Rose, I'm so sorry. Let me help you. Let me take you to the hospital." "No, I'm fine." "You're not fine." James was already picking up Anna, who stopped crying at his touch. "Come on, we're getting you help." At the hospital, Dr. Rahman examined Rose while James waited outside with the twins. Rose watched through the window as he awkwardly held Lucy, looking confused but gentle. "Malnutrition, emotion, and exhaustion," Dr. Rahman told James. "She's been giving all her food to the babies and working too hard. She needs rest and proper meals." James nodded seriously. "Whatever she needs. Money is no object." When Rose was feeling stronger, James sat beside her hospital bed. "Come back with me," he said. "You can work for me again. I'll provide housing for you and the children. They'll have everything they need." Rose looked at him, this man who had no idea he was offering to take care of his own daughters. "I can't accept charity, James. It's not charity, it's a job. I need you, Rose." His voice was quiet. "The house hasn't been the same since you left. Nothing has been the same." Rose saw something in his eyes that made her heart race. But then she looked at the twins sleeping in their hospital cots, and reality returned. She was a single mother with no money and no options, but she was also keeping the biggest secret of her life. "I need to think about it," she said. "Take all the time you need." "But Rose," James stood up and touched her hand gently. "I'm glad I found you. I've missed having you around." After he left, Rose stared at the ceiling and cried. She had loved him for one night, and that night had given her the most precious gifts of her life. But it had also created an impossible situation. How could she go back to working for him, seeing him every day, pretending her daughters weren't his? How could she keep such a huge secret when every day Anna's eyes looked more like his? But how could she refuse? Her daughters needed food, shelter, medical care. They needed a future. And despite everything, she still loved the man who had held her through one perfect, terrible night. Outside her hospital window, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere out there, James was going back to his empty mansion, not knowing that his whole world had just changed. Not knowing that he was a father, not knowing that the woman who had shared his bed and his secrets was about to face the hardest decision of her life. But what Rose didn't know was that James had already begun to suspect the truth. And tomorrow, he would start asking questions that she wasn't prepared to answer. Rose closed her eyes and held her sleeping daughters close. Tomorrow, she would have to decide. Tomorrow, she would have to choose between her heart and her fears, between the truth and the lies that protected them all. But tonight, for just a few more hours, she could pretend that somehow everything might work out. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. And the biggest shock was yet to come. What happens next will shock you. James isn't the only one who's been keeping secrets. Rose is about to learn something about that night that will make her question everything she thought she knew about the father of her children. What do you think Rose should do? Tell James the truth or keep running with his children? And what secret could James be hiding that's even bigger than being a father? Part 2 drops soon. Don't miss the twist that changes everything. After the one-night stand with his maid, Billionaire sees her with twins. Begging on the streets, Rose had hidden the truth for 2 years. Her twin daughters belonged to Billionaire James Mitchell. After one passionate night, she disappeared without telling him about the pregnancy. Now James found her on the streets and offered her a job again. But Rose faced an impossible choice: tell him the truth or keep the secret that could destroy them all. But what she decided next would change their lives forever. Before we start the story, please subscribe to my channel. Rose stared at the hospital ceiling all night, holding her sleeping daughters. Tomorrow, James would come for her answer. Would she return to work at his mansion? Her heart wanted to tell him everything. Anna and Lucy deserved to know their real father, and James. Despite his cold behavior, she had seen his gentle heart that one night 2 years ago. "I'll tell him," she whispered to herself. "Tomorrow, I'll tell him the truth about Anna and Lucy." But fate had other plans. The next morning, Rose was getting dressed to leave the hospital when James arrived. But he wasn't alone. Maya, Rose's younger sister, was with him. "Rose," Maya hugged her tightly. "I came as soon as I heard you were in the hospital. Mr. James told me everything about finding you on the street." Rose looked at James gratefully. He had called Maya to come help her. Even after all these years, he still cared. "Thank you for bringing her," Rose said softly to James. James nodded, then looked at Anna and Lucy playing with the toys he had brought them. "They're beautiful children, Rose. You should be proud." "I am," Rose replied, watching his face carefully. This was her moment. She could tell him right now. "You know," James continued, sitting down heavily, "seeing you with them yesterday, it made me realize how difficult it must be. Raising children alone, working multiple jobs, never having time for yourself." Rose's heart started beating faster. "James, I need to tell you something about—" "I have so much respect for you," James interrupted, shaking his head in amazement. "I honestly don't think I could ever do what you've done. Taking care of kids, being responsible for their whole lives, it's terrifying. I wouldn't even know where to start." Rose felt the words die in her throat. "I mean, look at me," James laughed bitterly. "I can't even take care of myself properly. I work 18 hours a day, I drink too much, I push everyone away. What kind of father would I make? Children need stability, love, patience, all the things I'm not good at. Maya squeezed Rose's hand, not understanding why her sister suddenly looked so pale. You're stronger than I could ever be, Rose, James said sincerely. Any man would be lucky to have you as his wife and those girls as his daughters. Rose's heart shattered into pieces. Here was James, unknowingly talking about his own children, saying he could never be their father. How could she tell him now? He would think she was trying to trap him, trying to force responsibility onto someone who clearly didn't want it. Rose? James noticed her silence. Are you all right? I'm fine, Rose lied, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. Just tired. So what do you say? Will you come back to work for me? I can provide a good life for you and the girls. They can have their own rooms, go to good schools. Rose looked at her daughters, then at Maya's hopeful face, then at James's kind but clueless expression. Yes, she whispered, we'll come back with you. But inside she made a promise to herself that would haunt her for years to come. She would never tell James the truth. She would protect her daughters from a father who didn't want them, even if it broke her heart every single day. 2 weeks later, Rose stood in the familiar mansion wearing her maid's uniform again. But everything had changed. The house that once felt like a workplace now felt like a prison of secrets. James had given Anna and Lucy a beautiful room next to Rose's quarters. He had bought them toys, clothes, everything they needed. But he treated them like any employer would treat his employees' children, kind but distant. What Rose hadn't expected was how much James had changed since she left. Every night, Rose heard the sound of breaking glass from the living room. Every morning, she found empty whiskey bottles and cleaned up the mess. And almost every night, there were different women. Rose would put the girls to bed, then watch from her window as expensive cars dropped off beautiful women in designer dresses. They would stay for a few hours, then leave. James was destroying himself, and Rose's heart broke watching it. Why is Mr. James so sad all the time? Anna asked one morning as they ate breakfast. Rose looked through the kitchen window and saw James sitting alone by the pool, staring at nothing with dark circles under his eyes. Sometimes grown-ups get sad, sweetheart, Rose said gently, just like you get sad sometimes. But when I'm sad, you hug me and I feel better, Lucy pointed out. Who hugs Mr. James? Rose's eyes filled with tears. I don't know, baby. What made everything worse was the new cook James had hired while Rose was gone. His name was David, and he was everything James wasn't. Warm, funny, patient with the children, and clearly interested in Rose. You work too hard, David told Rose one evening as they cleaned the kitchen together. When was the last time you did something just for fun? Rose couldn't remember. Between taking care of the girls and watching James destroy himself, she barely had time to sleep. The girls love you already, she said instead. Anna asked me yesterday if you could teach her how to make pancakes. David smiled. I'd love to. And maybe sometime you and I could have dinner together, just the two of us. Rose looked at David's kind face and felt something she hadn't felt in years. The possibility of a normal life. A man who wanted her not for one night, but forever. A father figure for her daughters who wouldn't break their hearts. I'd like that, she said softly. But from the doorway, James watched them talk and laugh together and felt something dark and jealous twist in his chest. He didn't understand why seeing Rose with David made him want to throw something. He had no right to be jealous. Rose was his employee, nothing more. Or so he told himself. But late at night, when he was alone with his whiskey and his regrets, James found himself writing in his diary. The same diary he had kept since he was a teenager, the place where he wrote his deepest thoughts. Rose is back, but she feels further away than ever. She smiles at David the way she used to smile at me that night. She laughs at his jokes. She lets him help with her children. I should be happy for her. She deserves love. But I can't stop wishing that love was me. I think I'm losing my mind. I catch myself staring at her daughters sometimes. Anna has eyes like mine, the same grey color. It's probably just coincidence, but it makes me feel strange inside. Like I should know them, protect them. Rose won't look at me directly anymore. When I talk to her, she stares at the floor or finds excuses to leave the room. I know I hurt her years ago with my coldness, but I thought we had moved past that. Now it's like there's a wall between us that gets higher every day." Meanwhile, Rose was building that wall on purpose. Every day it got harder to pretend. Every time James was kind to the girls, every time he absently touched Anna's hair or let Lucy climb on his lap while he worked, Rose's heart broke a little more, and James was getting suspicious. "Rose," he said one afternoon, finding her folding laundry while the girls napped, "can I ask you something about your husband?" Rose's hands froze on the tiny dress she was folding. "What about him? You never talk about him. Not his name, not how you met, not how he died. It's like he never existed." It's too painful," Rose said quickly. "I understand that, but the girls never mention him either. Don't they ask about their father?" Rose felt panic rising in her chest. "They were too young when he died. They don't really remember him." James studied her face carefully. "When did he die, exactly?" "Why are you asking me this?" Rose's voice came out sharper than she intended. "Because something doesn't add up," James said quietly. "You left here suddenly 2 years ago. The girls are 2 years old. You said you got married after you left, but when did you have time for a courtship, a wedding, a pregnancy?" Rose felt trapped. Every lie led to more questions, more lies. "I don't have to answer your questions about my personal life," she said, standing up quickly. "I work for you. That doesn't mean you own my past." But as she tried to leave the room, James caught her wrist gently. "Rose, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to understand. Because sometimes when I look at Anna and Lucy, I feel like..." "Like what?" Rose whispered, terrified of what he might say. "Like I've met them before. Like they belong here somehow." Rose pulled her hand away, her heart pounding. "You're imagining things." That night, Rose made a decision that would change everything. She found David in the kitchen and sat down across from him. "David," she said, her voice shaking. "What you asked me before, about dinner, about us." David's face lit up with hope. "Yes? I think I'm ready for that. For us." David reached across the table and took her hand. "Rose, I've been hoping you would say that. I know it's complicated with the girls and your past, but I love you, and I love Anna and Lucy like they were my own." Rose squeezed his hand, tears in her eyes. "Do you mean that?" "I mean all of it. Rose, will you marry me?" The proposal was simple, honest, everything James's had never been. Rose looked at David's kind face and saw safety, security, a normal life for her daughters. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." But as they kissed across the kitchen table, neither of them saw James standing in the doorway, his face white with shock and something that looked like heartbreak. The next morning, David and Rose told James about their engagement together. James listened with a polite smile that never reached his eyes. "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "I'm happy for you both." "We'd like to have the engagement party here, if that's all right," David said, "since we both work for you and Rose's family is here." "Of course," James replied. "I'll arrange everything." But after they left his office, James walked slowly to his bedroom, closed the door, and for the first time in years he cried. He cried for the woman he had lost, for the love he had been too proud to admit, for the family he would never have. That night, he wrote in his diary with shaking hands, "She's marrying him. Rose is marrying David, and I have no right to stop her, no right to tell her that I love her, that I've loved her since that night 2 years ago. She deserves happiness, and I've proven I can only bring her pain. But God help me, I can't watch her marry someone else. I can't pretend to be happy while my heart breaks into pieces. What kind of man does that make me? What kind of monster am I that I want to ruin her happiness just because I can't have her?" The girls called David Papa David today. They're already forgetting that I exist. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe they're better off with a father who knows how to love them properly. But I swear, sometimes when Anna looks at me, it's like looking in a mirror. And Lucy has Rose's smile, but my stubborn chin. Am I going crazy? Am I seeing things that aren't there because I want so desperately to have a family with Rose? The engagement party was planned for the following Saturday. James threw himself into the arrangements, ordering flowers, hiring musicians, arranging catering. If Rose was going to marry someone else, he would make sure it was the most beautiful engagement party anyone had ever seen. But as the day approached, James felt like he was planning his own funeral. Rose, meanwhile, was having her own struggles. She loved David, truly she did. But as she prepared for the engagement, she couldn't stop thinking about James. About the night they had shared, about the father her daughters would never know, about the love she had buried so deep, she had almost convinced herself it was dead. The morning of the engagement, Rose was getting dressed when she found something that changed everything. Hidden under some papers on her dresser was James's diary. He must have dropped it when he came to bring her flowers for the party. Rose knew she shouldn't read it, but something made her open it to the most recent entry. What she read made her sink onto her bed, the diary shaking in her hands. Today, Rose marries another man, and I lose her forever. I should tell her how I feel, but what's the point? She's made her choice, and it's not me. I had my chance 2 years ago, and I was too much of a coward to take it. I keep thinking about that night. The way she held me, the way she looked at me like I was worth loving. I've never felt that before or since. But I ruined it with my coldness, my fear, my stupid pride. I love her. I love her daughters. I love the family we could have been if I hadn't been such a fool. But it's too late now. It's too late for everything. Rose cried as she read page after page of James's hidden feelings, his regrets, his love for her that he had never been brave enough to speak aloud. By the time she finished reading, her engagement dress was soaked with tears. James loved her. He had always loved her, and she was about to marry another man in 2 hours. But it was too late to change anything now. The guests were arriving, the flowers were arranged. David was waiting for her in his best suit. Rose wiped her tears, fixed her makeup, and walked downstairs to her engagement party with a broken heart. The party was beautiful. James had outdone himself with white roses, fairy lights, and soft music. All their friends were there, including Maya, who had come from the village. But Rose felt like she was watching it all from far away. She smiled and accepted congratulations, but her heart wasn't in it. James stood at the back of the crowd, watching Rose with David, forcing himself to smile when people congratulated him on hosting such a lovely party. "Time for the ring ceremony," someone called out. David and Rose stood together under an arch of white flowers that James had personally arranged. Anna and Lucy, wearing matching pink dresses, stood beside them holding the rings on small satin pillows. "Before we exchange rings," David said, taking Rose's hands, "I want everyone to know how lucky I am. Rose, you and your daughters have made my life complete." Rose tried to smile, but all she could think about was James's diary, his words of love she would never hear spoken aloud. "Anna, Lucy," David called to the girls, "can you bring us the rings?" But instead of walking to David, both girls ran straight to James. "Daddy," Anna said, tugging on his jacket, "you have to put the ring on Mama's finger." The entire party went silent. Rose felt her blood turn to ice. "Why?" James asked, kneeling down to Anna's level, his voice confused. "Because you're our daddy," Lucy announced loudly. "Mama told us." Rose's world started spinning. She had never told the girls that. They had figured it out on their own. The same grey eyes, the same expressions, some instinct that told them James belonged to them. "No, sweethearts," James said gently, his heart breaking. "David is going to be your new daddy. I'm just your friend." But Anna started crying. "No, you're our daddy. We want you to put the ring on Mama." "Please, Daddy," Lucy begged, holding up the rings. "Please do it for us." James looked across the crowd at Rose, who was standing frozen in her engagement dress, tears streaming down her face. The entire party was staring. Maya looked confused, David looked hurt and angry, and James, holding his crying daughters who had just called him daddy in front of everyone, finally understood the truth that Rose had been hiding for 2 years. "Rose," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the silent crowd, "we need to talk. Now." Rose nodded, unable to speak. "Everyone stay here," James announced, his voice stronger now. "Rose and I need to discuss something privately." He took Rose's hand and led her into the house, leaving behind a crowd of confused guests, an abandoned groom, and two little girls who had just destroyed and created a family with 3 simple words. In the quiet of his study, James closed the door and turned to face Rose. "Tell me the truth," he said quietly. "Are Anna and Lucy my daughters?" Rose looked into his grey eyes, the same eyes her daughters had inherited. And finally, after 2 years of lies and fear and heartbreak, she told him everything. "Yes," she whispered. "They're yours. They've always been yours." But what happened next would either bring them together forever or tear their family apart for good. James listened to Rose's confession, the pregnancy, the fear, the misunderstanding about his comments, the years of keeping his children from him, and felt his world shift on its axis. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to the window, looked out at the engagement party he had arranged for the woman he loved to marry another man, and said the words that would change everything. "I'm stopping this engagement." "James, no," Rose started, but he was already walking toward the door. "Everyone needs to know the truth," he said firmly, "starting now." James walked back outside to where the confused guests were waiting. David was trying to comfort Anna and Lucy, who were still crying for their daddy. "Ladies and gentlemen," James announced, his voice carrying across the garden, "I have an announcement to make." Rose came running behind him, tears streaming down her face, but it was too late. "This engagement is cancelled," James declared. The crowd gasped. David stepped forward, his face red with anger and humiliation. "What are you talking about?" David demanded. James looked at Rose, then at his daughters, then back at the crowd of shocked faces. "Because," he said clearly, "Anna and Lucy are my daughters, and I'm going to fight for my family." The party erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Rose stood frozen, watching her carefully built world crumble around her, but the biggest shock was yet to come. Because as James's words sank in, as David realized he had been lied to for months, as the guests started to understand what they had just witnessed, Rose made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She stepped forward, took James's hand, and said the words that would either save them all or destroy them completely. But that revelation would have to wait, because what Rose said next would change everything. Will Rose choose love over fear? Will James accept his daughters, or will his pride destroy their family forever? And what about David, the innocent man caught in the middle of this explosive truth? The biggest confrontation is about to begin, and someone's heart will be shattered forever. Don't miss part 3, where secrets explode, hearts break, and a family hangs in the balance. Like this video if you're Team James or Team David, and subscribe for the shocking conclusion. Rose had kept the biggest secret of her life for 2 years. James, the billionaire who broke her heart, was the father of her twin daughters. She had lied to protect them all. But now, on her engagement day to another man, her 2-year-old twins had just called James daddy in front of everyone. The truth was finally out, and James had just shocked everyone by cancelling the engagement. But what happened next would change their lives forever. "What have you done?" Rose screamed at James as guests stared in shock. Her white engagement dress was wrinkled, her face red with tears and anger. "Why did you cancel my engagement? You have no right." James stood frozen in the middle of his own lawn, surrounded by confused guests. The wedding decorations he had paid for mocked him. The rings lay scattered on the ground where the twins had dropped them. "Rose, we need to talk," James said, his voice shaking. "You just told me those children are—" "Forget what I told you." Rose grabbed his arm desperately. "I was lying. I was emotional. Please, just let me marry David, please." But it was too late. David, who truly loved Rose, had heard everything from the doorway. "Rose," David said quietly, walking toward them. "Is it true? Are Anna and Lucy his daughters?" The guests began whispering loudly. Some took out their phones to record. Rose felt her world crashing down. "David, I can explain. Are they his children or not?" David's voice was louder now, hurt mixing with anger. Rose looked between the two men. James, the father of her children, staring at her with shock and something that looked like betrayal. David, the kind man who wanted to give her a normal life, waiting for an answer that would destroy his heart. "Yes," she whispered. They're his. David stepped back like she had hit him. 2 years, Rose. For 2 years, you let me believe I could be their father. You let me fall in love with children who already had a daddy. David, please. Rose reached for him, but he pulled away. And you, David turned to James, his eyes blazing with anger. You're a billionaire. You have everything. But you let the mother of your children work as your maid. You let them struggle. I didn't know, James shouted back. She never told me. Because you told me you could never handle raising children, Rose cried. When you saw me in the hospital, you said taking care of kids was too hard. You said you would never do it. James's face went white. When did I say that? The day you brought me back from the hospital, you talked to Maya. I said I admired you for doing it alone because I didn't think I was strong enough to be a good father, James interrupted. I was praising you, not rejecting the idea. The truth hit Rose like a physical blow. She had misunderstood. For 2 years, she had hidden his children from him because of a misunderstanding. Oh God, she whispered, sinking to her knees on the grass. What have I done? Meanwhile, Anna and Lucy had been watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. They ran to Rose, wrapping their small arms around her. Mama, why is everyone shouting? Anna asked. Did we do something bad? Lucy added, her bottom lip trembling. Rose held her daughters close, her heart breaking. These innocent children had just destroyed and created a family in the same moment. James knelt down beside them. You didn't do anything bad, girls. Adults sometimes make mistakes. Are you really our daddy? Anna asked, looking up at James with those grey eyes that matched his perfectly. James looked at Rose, then back at his daughters. Yes, he said softly, I'm your daddy. Then why don't you live with us? Lucy asked innocently. The question hung in the air like a challenge. David made a sound of disgust and walked away, pushing through the crowd of guests. Rose wanted to call after him, but what could she say? Everyone needs to leave, James announced loudly. The party is over. As the confused guests slowly left, whispering and staring, James, Rose, and the twins were left alone in the decorated garden. The fairy lights James had hung for another man's engagement party now seemed to mock them all. We need to talk, James said. Really talk. No more lies. Rose nodded, wiping her tears. Girls, go inside and find Mrs. Kate. Ask her for some milk and cookies. But Mama... Go, Rose said firmly. Daddy and I need to talk alone. After the twins ran toward the house, James and Rose sat on the garden bench in silence. The weight of 2 years of secrets hung between them. I loved you that night, James said suddenly. It wasn't just because I was drunk and hurt. I had been falling in love with you for months. Rose's heart stopped. What? Every morning when you brought me coffee? Every time you listened when I was stressed about work? Every time you smiled? James ran his hands through his hair. I was falling in love with my maid, and I didn't know what to do about it. Then why were you so cold to me? Because I was scared. I'm a billionaire, Rose. Women want me for my money. But you saw something good in me even when I was horrible to you. I thought if I stayed distant, these feelings would go away. Rose stared at him in shock. You loved me. I still love you, James said quietly. When you disappeared, I thought I would die. I hired investigators to find you. I called hospitals, police stations. I thought something terrible had happened to you. I had to protect my babies, Rose whispered. I thought you would take them away from me. Take them away? James looked hurt. Rose, they're my daughters too. I would never hurt them or you. They sat in silence for a moment, both crying quietly. What happens now? Rose asked. Before James could answer, Anna and Lucy came running back with Mrs. Kate behind them. Mr. James, Mrs. Kate said, looking confused, the girls are asking me to make them beds in your room. They say they want to sleep with their daddy tonight. James looked at Rose helplessly. I don't know how to be a father. Neither did I know how to be a mother, Rose said softly. But we learn. That night, James attempted to put the twins to bed in his huge bedroom. But it was a disaster. Anna wanted water. Lucy needed the bathroom. Then they both wanted a story, but James didn't know any stories for children. Tell us about where you work, Daddy, Anna suggested. Well, I build big buildings, James started awkwardly. With your hands? Lucy asked, amazed. No, with other people's hands. I just tell them what to do. That's boring, Anna declared. Tell us about dragons. I don't know any dragon stories. Mama knows lots of dragon stories, Lucy said. Mama, come tell us. Rose appeared in the doorway. She had changed out of her engagement dress into simple clothes, but she looked beautiful to James. You two need to sleep, she said gently. But we want to sleep with Daddy, Anna insisted. And you, Lucy added, patting the bed between her and James, all together like a real family. Rose hesitated. Girls, families don't always live in the same bed. Please, Mama. Anna's eyes filled with tears. We just found out we have a daddy. Don't make him go away. James's heart broke. I'm not going anywhere, he promised. I'm your daddy forever now. Then prove it, Lucy said with the logic only a 2-year-old could have. Stay here. Rose looked at James. They were both thinking the same thing. These children had been hurt enough today. Just for tonight, Rose agreed. As they settled into the huge bed, James on one side, Rose on the other, with Anna and Lucy between them, James felt something he had never experienced before. Completeness. Daddy, Anna whispered in the dark. Are you going to marry Mama now? Anna, shh, Rose said quickly. But that's what happens in stories, Lucy added. The princess and prince get married and live happily ever after. Life isn't a story, girls, Rose said gently. But it could be, Anna insisted. Right, Daddy? James looked across the pillows at Rose. In the moonlight, she looked exactly like she had that night 2 years ago when she had held him while he cried. Maybe, he whispered, if your mama wants it to be. The next morning, James woke up to find Anna drawing on his face with a washable marker, while Lucy braided his hair. What are you doing? He asked, trying not to laugh. Making you pretty like Mama, Anna announced. Do you like it, Daddy? Lucy asked proudly. James looked in the mirror they held up. He had flowers drawn on his cheeks, and his hair was in tiny braids with pink ribbons. I look beautiful, he said seriously. The girls giggled, and James felt his heart expand. He had never known he could love anyone this much. But their peaceful morning was interrupted by urgent knocking on the bedroom door. Mr. James, Mrs. Kate called, there are reporters outside, lots of them. They want to know about last night. James's blood went cold. Stay here, he told Rose and the girls. Don't go outside. But when he looked out the window, his worst fears came true. There were news vans everywhere, photographers with long cameras, reporters holding microphones. His phone started ringing. His business partner, his lawyer, his publicist, everyone wanted to know the same thing. James, his business partner Marcus said when he answered. Is it true? Do you have children with your maid? They're not just my maid's children, James said angrily. They're my daughters. This is a disaster for your image. The board members are calling emergency meetings. The stock price is going to fall. I don't care about the stock price. You should. Your reputation affects everyone who works for you. You need to control this story before it destroys everything you've built. James hung up and sat on his head in his hands. He had pink ribbons in his hair and flower drawings on his face, and his business empire was falling apart. Rose found him like that an hour late after she had dressed the girls and given them breakfast. The reporters want to talk to me too, she said quietly. Mrs. Kate told them I'm here. You're not talking to anyone, James said firmly. I won't let them hurt you or the girls. James, Rose sat beside him. Maybe we should tell the truth, the whole truth. Show them that we're trying to be a family. You don't understand. James stood up, pacing. These people will twist everything. They'll make you look like a gold digger who trapped me. They'll make me look like a fool who was deceived by his maid. But we know the truth. The truth doesn't matter to them. Only the story matters. As if summoned by his words, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Kate's voice echoed through the house. Mr. James, there's a woman here. She says her name is Victoria. She wants to talk to you. Rose's face went pale. Victoria, your ex-fiancée? James's expression darkened. What is she doing here? They went downstairs to find Victoria in the living room, looking perfect as always in her designer clothes. But her smile was cold and calculating. Hello, James, she said sweetly. I came as soon as I heard the news. What do you want, Victoria? To help, of course. Victoria's eyes moved to Rose, looking her up and down with disgust. I see you've been busy while I was traveling. Get out, James said coldly. Oh, but James, I'm here to make you an offer. Victoria pulled out her phone and showed him photos. These are pictures of your situation that will be in tomorrow's newspapers. Very unflattering angles, I'm afraid. The photos were terrible. Rose crying, the twins looking scared, James looking angry and out of control. But, Victoria continued, I have connections with these newspapers. I could make sure these photos never get published. I could help spin this story in your favor. What do you want? James asked, though he already knew. Take me back, Victoria said simply. Marry me like we planned. We can say this whole thing was just a misunderstanding. The children can live here quietly, Rose can work for us, and your reputation stays intact. Rose felt sick. You want him to pretend we don't exist? I want what's best for everyone, Victoria said with fake sweetness. James gets his reputation back, you get to keep your job and have your children taken care of. And I get the life I deserve as his wife. And what do the girls get? Rose asked angrily. They get to grow up in luxury instead of poverty, Victoria replied. I'd say that's quite generous. James was quiet for a long moment, staring at the photos on Victoria's phone. Rose watched his face, trying to read his thoughts. James, Rose whispered, what are you thinking? James looked at her, then at Victoria, then toward the stairs where his daughter's laughter could be heard as they played. I'm thinking, James said slowly, that I've spent my whole life caring about what other people thought about me. I've made every decision based on money and reputation and what looked good to the outside world. Victoria smiled, thinking she had won. But you know what? James continued. For the first time in my life, I have something real, something that matters more than money or reputation or what people think. James, be realistic, Victoria started. I am being realistic. James's voice got louder. I'm 30 years old and I've never been truly happy until yesterday when 2 little girls called me daddy. Victoria's smile faded. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. James walked to Victoria and took her phone, deleting the photos. And here's some advice. If those photos appear in any newspaper, my lawyers will sue you for harassment and invasion of privacy. You can't delete those photos from everywhere. Try me, James said coldly. I have more money and better lawyers than you can imagine. Now get out of my house. After Victoria left, slamming the door behind her, Rose stared at James in amazement. You chose us, she said softly. I chose my family, James corrected. Now we just have to figure out how to be one. But their moment was interrupted by Anna running downstairs, crying, Mama, Daddy, there are scary men with big cameras outside. They're trying to look in my window. James's anger flared. That's it, we're leaving. Where? Rose asked. Somewhere safe, somewhere we can figure out how to be a family without the whole world watching. As James made phone calls to arrange their escape, Rose packed quickly for the girls. But she couldn't shake the feeling that running away wouldn't solve their problems. As James reached for his phone to arrange their escape, Rose placed her hand gently on his arm. Wait, she said softly. I don't want to run anymore. James looked at her in surprise. Rose, those reporters will make our lives hell. And they'll be more scared if we keep hiding, Rose interrupted. James, I've spent 2 years running from the truth. I'm tired of it. She walked to the window and looked out at the reporters. These are our children. This is our story. Maybe it's time we told it ourselves. Before James could respond, Anna and Lucy came downstairs, looking worried. Daddy, are the scary camera people going to hurt us? Lucy asked. James knelt down. No, sweetheart, we're not hiding anymore. An hour later, James, Rose, Anna, and Lucy walked out the front door hand in hand. The reporters rushed forward with cameras and microphones. James held up his hand for silence. My name is James Harrison, and yes, these are my daughters. Their mother, Rose, is the woman I fell in love with. The cameras flashed as he continued. 2 years ago, due to misunderstandings, we lost touch. Rose raised our daughters alone, working multiple jobs to provide for them. Rose stepped forward. I made mistakes too. I kept James from knowing about his children because I was scared. But our daughters recognized their father, and the truth came out. "What happens now?" a reporter called out. James looked at Rose, then at their daughters. "Now we learn to be a family. I'm going to court Rose properly, the way she deserves. And hopefully, if she'll have me, I'm going to marry the woman I should have married 2 years ago." Over the next few weeks, the media attention died down. James's honesty had actually improved his public image. He courted Rose like a teenager. Flowers every morning, picnic dates while the girls played, slowly rebuilding trust. 3 months later, James got down on one knee in the same garden where Rose's engagement to David had been cancelled. "Rose," he said, voice shaking, "I know we did everything backwards, but I don't want to spend another day without you as my wife. Will you marry me?" Anna and Lucy watched from the window, pressing their faces against the glass in excitement. Rose wiped tears from her eyes. "Yes, but I have conditions. I want to keep working. My own career. I want us to go to couples counseling. And I want Anna and Lucy to be our flower girls." "Done," James said, slipping the ring onto her finger. Their wedding 6 months later was small but perfect. Rose wore a simple white dress, and Anna and Lucy scattered flower petals with wild enthusiasm. As they exchanged vows, James said, "I promise to love you not just as the mother of my children, but as my partner and the woman who taught me what real happiness looks like." Rose smiled through tears. "I promise to trust you with my heart, to be honest even when it's hard, and to build a life with you based on love, not fear." 5 years later, James and Rose Harrison were featured on a business magazine cover as an example of how personal happiness could improve professional success. James's company had flourished, and Rose had started her own non-profit helping single mothers. Anna and Lucy, now 7, were thriving in school with no memory of the drama that brought their family together. To them, it had always been Mama, Daddy, and their little brother Michael, who arrived 2 years after the wedding. Sometimes, late at night, James and Rose would sit in their garden and marvel at their lives. "Do you ever regret choosing us over the easy path?" Rose would ask. James would pull her closer. "Never. You showed me what it means to truly live, not just exist." Their happy ending wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that made all the difference. Did James and Rose's love story give you all the feels? What did you think about Rose's brave decision to face the media instead of running away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this dramatic billionaire romance with the perfect happy ending, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you never miss our latest stories. What other billionaire romance would you like to see next? A CEO with his secretary? A mafia boss falling for an innocent girl? Let us know in the comments and we might just make it our next story. Don't forget to like this video if Rose and James made your heart flutter, and share it with someone who loves a good romance story. See you in the next one.